She had no birth certificate, no passport, no identity. When the Mafia boss ran a background check on his new bodyguard, he found nothing, not even a fingerprint in the system. But when 6 trained killers surrounded her in his courtyard, he found out exactly why someone would erase a person from existence. 10 seconds. 6 bodies on the ground. And one question nobody could answer. Who the hell was Sable Cordell? If you believe talent should be recognized regardless of who you are or where you come from, hit subscribe to Ebony and Pearl Stories. Only people who judge others unfairly won't. Chu Byung-ho paced inside his private office, irritated beyond measure. He needed a bodyguard. Urgently. How's the recruitment going? He snapped into his phone. His assistant's voice crackled through. Boss, your requirements are impossible. Superhuman strength, unshakable loyalty, zero fear? You won't find that anywhere. Then look harder. I already did. But there's a problem. People say you're cursed. A lonely star of doom. 3 assassination attempts in 1 week? No security company wants to take the contract. They all think working for you is suicide. Byung-ho slammed his hand on the desk. Vehicles malfunctioning around him. Deals collapsing at the last second. Whispers about bad luck following him like a shadow. Forget it, he muttered. Don't bother finding one anymore. But deep down, he knew he couldn't survive alone much longer. Across the city, Sable Cordell was being fired. Again. Shouting, "You're a sparring partner, not a street fighter," her boss said, avoiding eye contact. You've put 3 clients in the hospital this week. I can't afford the lawsuits anymore. The gym's already mortgaged. Sable said nothing. This place is too small for someone like you. Go. She grabbed her bag and walked out into the afternoon heat. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mentor. Use your head first, Sable. Not your fists. You'll find work. Just remember, reason before violence. Sable sighed. Easy for him to say. She was broke, homeless, and running out of options. Boss, there's traffic up ahead. Looks like some kind of commotion. Byung-ho leaned forward in the back seat of his luxury sedan, irritated. I have a meeting in 20 minutes. Go check it out. His driver stepped out. Through tinted windows, Byung-ho watched the scene unfold. An elderly delivery driver stood trembling in front of a damaged luxury car. 3 loan sharks surrounded him, shouting, You scratched my car. 500,000 won. Now. I don't have that kind of money. My son is sick. I can barely afford his medicine. Your son's life has nothing to do with me. Pay up or I'll kill you right here. The old man stumbled backward, tears streaming down his face. Byung-ho reached for the door handle, but someone moved first. Sable stepped between the loan sharks and the old man. Come. Controlled. Dangerous in a quiet way. Sir, this old man is clearly struggling. You're going too far. One of the loan sharks sneered. None of your business, lady. Get lost before you get hurt. Sable didn't move. I'll use reason first, she said evenly. Walk away. Now. They laughed. Reason? You poor losers don't even know what real power is. Do you know who we work for? The largest one shoved her hard. Bad mistake. Sable's hand snapped out like a viper. She grabbed his wrist, twisted, and in one fluid motion, swept his legs. He hit the pavement hard. The other 2 lunged at her. 3 seconds later, all 3 loan sharks were on the ground, groaning and clutching their arms. Sable didn't even look winded. Leave. Now. They scrambled to their feet and ran. From inside the car, Byung-ho sat frozen. Then he opened the door. Hey, he called out. You. Come here. Sable turned, eyeing him cautiously. Designer suit. Expensive car. Bodyguards flanking him. Trouble. Byung-ho stepped forward. Do you want a job? Sable blinked. What kind of job? My personal bodyguard. Her eyebrow rose. That's random. Life-saving, Byung-ho corrected. Very well paid. She crossed her arms. And dangerous? Byung-ho smiled for the first time in days. Is that a problem? Sable studied him for a long moment. She had no money, no job, no prospects. And something about this man told her he wasn't lying about the danger. Not for me, she said finally. 10 minutes later, Byung-ho was back in his headquarters, phone pressed to his ear. I want everything on that woman. Everything. 10 minutes. His team scrambled. His lieutenant burst into the office. Boss, you can't be serious. You hired a random woman off the street. She outclassed 3 armed extortionists in 3 seconds. But 10 minutes. I want her background, her training, her history. Everything. 9 minutes later, they called back. Boss. She has no digital footprint. Byung-ho froze. What? No social security record. No address. No government employment. No passport trail. No bank accounts. It's like she doesn't exist. Silence filled the room. She fights like someone trained, another voice added quietly. Maybe military. Or something worse. Byung-ho stared out the window at Sable, who stood in the courtyard, arms crossed, watching the gate. His curiosity ignited. Hire her. Officially. Boss, this is insane. Do it. Sable stood alone in the courtyard, unaware that her entire life was about to change. She had no idea that the man who just hired her was one of the most dangerous men in Seoul. And she had no idea that the people hunting her had just been given her exact location. Because 3 hours from now, 6 elite enforcers would surround her in this very courtyard. And Chu Byung-ho would finally understand exactly who he'd just hired. If you believe people like those loan sharks who prey on the weak deserve to be stopped, subscribe to Ebony and Pearl Stories and comment what time you're watching this. Only bullies and cowards won't stand with us. The next morning, Byung-ho's intelligence team stood in his office, pale-faced and nervous. Well, he demanded. The lead analyst swallowed hard. Boss, we've run every database. Government records, immigration, banking systems, even black market channels. And nothing. She doesn't exist. Byung-ho's jaw tightened. What do you mean she doesn't exist? No birth certificate. No social security number. No passport. No driver's license. No employment history. No medical records. It's like she appeared out of thin air. Another analyst spoke up, voice shaking. Boss, people don't just have 0 records. Not unless someone erased them. Or unless she was never supposed to exist in the first place. The room fell silent. Byung-ho stared at the empty report folder on his desk. Who was this woman? When Sable walked through the gates of Black Tiger headquarters that afternoon, every eye turned toward her. Whispers erupted immediately. That's her? The boss hired her off the street. She doesn't look that impressive. I heard she's just his latest rebellious stunt. You know how he gets. Rebellious? She looks dangerous. Did you see her eyes? Sable ignored them all. She dealt with worse than gossip. But as she walked past a group of senior enforcers, one of them muttered loud enough for her to hear. A woman? As the boss's personal bodyguard? This syndicate is finished. Sable stopped, turned, met his eyes. The man's smirk faltered. She said nothing, just held his gaze for 3 long seconds, then walked on. The enforcer shivered despite himself. That evening, Kim Tae-jun arrived at headquarters unannounced. He was an allied clan leader, wealthy, arrogant, and deeply traditional. Behind him stood 3 bodyguards, all broad-shouldered and stone-faced. Byung-ho, Tae-jun called out, voice dripping with mockery. I heard the strangest rumor. They say you hired a woman as your personal bodyguard. Byung-ho's expression remained neutral. You heard correctly. Tae-jun laughed, loud and theatrical. Brother, I know you like to be different, but this is madness. A woman protecting the head of Black Tiger? You'll be the laughingstock of Seoul. He gestured to his 3 bodyguards. I brought you real protection. 3 of the best fighters money can buy. All men. All professionals. Forget this experiment. Sable stood near the wall, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Taejun turned to her with a condescending smile. Little lady, no offense, but this world isn't for you. Why don't you let the real bodyguards handle things? Sable didn't move. Are you challenging me? She asked calmly. Taejun blinked. What? You brought 3 men to prove a point. So prove it. The room went silent. One of Taejun's bodyguards stepped forward. Miss, you're outnumbered. Which one of us do you want to fight first? Sable glanced at her watch. All 3 at once. I'm short on time. The bodyguards exchanged glances. Then laughed. She doesn't know her limits. Fine, Taejun said with a smirk. But don't say we ganged up on you when you lose. Sable stepped into the center of the room. Begin. The fight lasted 12 seconds. The first bodyguard rushed forward with a straight punch. Sable sidestepped, grabbed his wrist, and used his momentum to flip him onto his back. The second attacked from her left. She ducked under his swing, swept his legs, and he crashed into a table. The third hesitated, then lunged desperately. Sable caught his arm mid-swing, twisted, and he dropped to his knees with a yelp of pain. All 3 were on the ground, groaning. Sable straightened her jacket, barely winded. The room was dead silent. Taejun's face had gone from smug to pale. Byung-ho stepped forward, voice cold and final. Still think she's unqualified? Byung-ho called an emergency assembly that night. Every senior member of the Black Tiger Syndicate gathered in the main hall. He stood at the front, Sable beside him. Effective immediately, Sable Cordell is my personal bodyguard. She answers only to me. Anyone who has a problem with that can leave now. Silence. No one moved. But Taejun stood at the back, fists clenched, face burning with humiliation. This is a mistake, Byung-ho, he said through gritted teeth. You're making enemies you don't need. Then I'll deal with them. Taejun stormed out, his remaining entourage following close behind. As the doors slammed shut, Byung-ho's lieutenant whispered, Boss, the Kim family won't let this go. They're hosting the annual banquet tonight. They'll use it to embarrass you publicly. Byung-ho glanced at Sable. Let them try. Later that night, Byung-ho's staff prepared a private room for Sable inside the headquarters compound. Wait, one of the maids whispered. She's moving in? Into the main building? That's what the boss ordered. But only family and top lieutenants live here. Exactly. Rumors spread like wildfire. By morning, half the staff believed Sable was Byung-ho's secret lover. The other half thought she was a spy. When Sable overheard 2 guards whispering about it, she stopped in front of them. I'm here because it's protocol, she said flatly. Personal bodyguards stay close to their assignments. Nothing more. The guards nodded quickly and scurried away. But Sable knew the rumors wouldn't stop. She didn't care. She had a job to do. As night fell, Byung-ho stood on the balcony overlooking the city, a glass of whiskey in hand. Sable appeared silently beside him. The banquet is tomorrow night, he said without looking at her. Taejun and his allies will be there. They'll try to humiliate me. Possibly worse. Then I'll be ready. Byung-ho finally turned to face her. You don't know what you've gotten yourself into. Sable met his gaze, unflinching. Neither do you. If you believe people who judge others based on stereotypes and prejudice deserve to be proven wrong, like this story and comment, respect is earned. Only close-minded haters won't. The next evening, Byung-ho's security chief cornered Sable in the hallway. You can't wear tactical gear to the banquet, he said bluntly. You'll stand out too much. We need you to blend in. Sable frowned. I'm a bodyguard, not a guest. Exactly. Which means you need to look like you belong there. The Kim family will be watching for any excuse to embarrass the boss. Don't give them ammunition. An hour later, Sable emerged from her room wearing a sleek black evening dress with strategic slits that allowed movement. Her hair was pulled back, and a discreet earpiece completed the look. She hated every second of it. When Byung-ho saw her, he paused mid-step. "You clean up well. I feel ridiculous. You look dangerous." "That's better." The banquet hall glittered with chandeliers and champagne. Seoul's elite mingled under the guise of celebration, but everyone knew the truth. This was a battlefield dressed in silk and diamonds. The moment Sable entered beside Byung-ho, conversation stopped. Whispers erupted like wildfire. "Is that her? The woman he hired? She's actually stunning. Doesn't matter how she looks. A bodyguard is a bodyguard. I heard she beat 3 men in under a minute." "Impossible. That's just a rumor." Sable ignored them all, her eyes scanning the room for threats. Within minutes, a swarm of businessmen descended on Byung-ho, each one desperate for his attention. "President Chu, about that investment opportunity." "Mr. Chu, I have a proposal that could double your profits." "Byung-ho, we need to discuss the partnership." Sable stepped forward, positioning herself between Byung-ho and the crowd. "Step back. 1 meter minimum." The men blinked in confusion. "Excuse me." No one approaches within 1 meter of President Chu. Security protocol. An older man in an expensive suit bristled. "Young lady, do you know who I am?" "No. I'm Chu Han-sol, Byung-ho's uncle." Sable didn't budge. "Then you should know better than to violate security protocols, Uncle Han." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Han-sol's face turned red. "How dare you speak to me like that in public?" Byung-ho stepped forward smoothly. "Uncle Han, she's doing her job. Perhaps you could respect that." Han-sol glared at both of them before storming off, muttering under his breath. 20 minutes later, Byung-ho's extended family cornered him near the bar. Han-sol led the charge, flanked by Byung-ho's cousin, Chu Tae-min, and several other relatives. "Byung-ho, this has gone too far," Han-sol said sharply. "Hiring that woman as your bodyguard? You're bringing disgrace to the Chu family name. She's more qualified than anyone you've suggested." "She's a nobody." Tae-min spat. "An untrained outsider with no background, no credentials, no loyalty. For all we know, she's a spy sent to infiltrate our family." Sable stood silently behind Byung-ho, arms crossed. Han-sol pointed at her. "This woman is a threat to the family fortune. You're trusting a stranger with your life while pushing away your own blood." "My own blood," Byung-ho said coldly, "has been trying to steal the company from under me since my father died." The accusation hung in the air like a bomb. Sable spoke for the first time, voice calm and measured. "If I may, Uncle Han, you said I'm unqualified and dangerous. Yet 10 minutes ago, you tried to bypass security protocols to get close to President Chu. If I were truly a spy, wouldn't that make you reckless? And if I'm truly dangerous, wouldn't that make you foolish for provoking me?" Han-sol's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "Furthermore," Sable continued, "you claim to care about family loyalty, yet you're publicly undermining your nephew at a banquet hosted by his rivals. Interesting strategy." Tae-min stepped forward, furious. "How dare you?" "She has a point," Byung-ho said quietly. "This conversation is over." As the night wore on, tensions simmered beneath the surface. Sable never left Byung-ho's side, her eyes constantly scanning for threats. Then she saw it. A server approaching from the left, moving too quickly, hand reaching into his jacket pocket. Sable moved instantly. She intercepted the man, grabbed his wrist, and twisted. A small incendiary device clattered to the floor, designed to ignite and cause chaos. The server yelped in pain as Sable forced him to his knees. The crowd gasped. "He was trying to burn President Chu," Sable said loudly. But Han-sol was faster. "She attacked an innocent server," he shouted. "This woman is out of control. She's paranoid and dangerous." Several guests murmured in agreement. Byung-ho knelt beside the device, examined it, then held it up for everyone to see. This is a remote incendiary trigger. Whoever hired this man wanted me dead. Silence. The server, realizing he was caught, started babbling. I was paid. I didn't know who. They just said to get close and... Security dragged him away. Taemin sneered. Convenient timing. Almost like it was staged to make her look like a hero. Sable met his gaze. Believe what you want. I did my job. An hour later, Byung-ho and Sable left the banquet early. The convoy moved through Seoul's dark streets in tense silence. Then the lead car exploded. Tires screeched as their vehicle swerved to avoid the wreckage. Byung-ho's driver slammed the brakes. Get down! Sable shouted. Figures emerged from the shadows. Silent, masked, moving with military precision. But they weren't surrounding Byung-ho's car. They were surrounding hers. One of them locked eyes with Sable through the tinted window. Then he spoke, voice distorted through a mask. Black, 09. You've been found. Sable's blood turned to ice. Byung-ho turned to her, confusion and alarm in his eyes. What did he just call you? But before she could answer, the attackers struck. If you believe people who sabotage others out of jealousy and greed deserve to be exposed, subscribe to Ebony and Pearl Stories and comment. Justice always wins. Only backstabbers and cowards won't. The attackers moved like ghosts. Sable threw open the car door and engaged them before Byung-ho could react. 5 masked operatives, all armed with dampened weapons and military-grade equipment. They weren't thugs. They were professionals. And they weren't after Byung-ho. Sable fought with lethal precision, disarming 2 within seconds. But they kept coming, coordinated and relentless. One operative lunged at her with a tranquilizer dart. She dodged, but barely. Fall back. Byung-ho shouted to his men. Protect the perimeter. But the operatives ignored them completely. Their focus was singular. After a brutal 2-minute fight, Sable managed to incapacitate all 5. The last one collapsed at her feet, mask torn, blood seeping from a shoulder wound. He looked up at her with recognition in his eyes. Black 09, he whispered. The program wants you back. Then he passed out. Sable stood frozen, chest heaving, her hands trembling for the first time since Byung-ho had met her. Black 09? Byung-ho repeated slowly. What program? Who are these people? Sable didn't answer. She just stared at the unconscious operative. Get these men secured, Byung-ho ordered his guards, and take her inside. Now. The next morning, an emergency meeting was called. Every senior lieutenant of the Black Tiger Syndicate gathered in the conference room. Tension crackled in the air. Byung-ho sat at the head of the table, Sable standing silently behind him. We were attacked last night, Byung-ho began. Not by rivals. Not by the Kim family. By something else entirely. Something military. Murmurs rippled through the room. Then the door opened. An elderly man entered, moving slowly with the aid of a cane. His name was Wang Lichen, a retired triad elder and occasional consultant to the syndicate. He took one look at Sable and froze. His face went pale. His hand trembled on his cane. Impossible, he whispered. Everyone turned to look at him. Elder Wang, Byung-ho asked, do you know something? Wang's eyes never left Sable. I've seen her before. Years ago. In Macau. The room went deathly silent. There was a program, Wang continued, voice shaking. Classified. Off the books. They called it Phantom Unit. Experimental operatives trained to be invisible. Untraceable. Perfect weapons. He pointed a gnarled finger at Sable. She looks like one of them. Black 09. Gasps erupted around the table. What happened to the program? Byung-ho demanded. Wang shook his head. It was dismantled. The operatives, they were erased. From records. From countries. From existence. Those who tried to leave were hunted down. Eliminated. He looked at Sable with something between fear and pity. If she's still alive, it means she's been running. And if they found her here? He turned to Byung-ho. You've just made yourself a target. Sable said nothing during the entire meeting. When it ended, the lieutenants filed out, whispering nervously. Some cast fearful glances at her. Others looked at Byung-ho as if he'd invited a bomb into their headquarters. Only Byung-ho and Sable remained. Is it true? He asked quietly. Sable's jaw tightened. I don't owe you an explanation. You do if it puts my organization at risk. She turned to face him, and for the first time, Byung-ho saw something break in her eyes. Fear. Raw, unfiltered fear. I left that life behind, she said, voice barely above a whisper. I didn't think they'd find me. I thought I was careful enough. How long have you been running? 3 years. Byung-ho exhaled slowly. And now they know exactly where you are. Sable nodded. Because of me. Midnight came with silence. Too much silence. Sable stood at the window of her quarters, eyes scanning the darkened compound. Something felt wrong. Then the lights went out. Emergency systems kicked in, bathing the headquarters in dim red light. Sable grabbed her weapon and moved into the hallway. They were already inside. Figures in black tactical gear moved through the corridors like shadows. No gunfire. No alarms. Just silent, surgical precision. Sable engaged the first operative in hand-to-hand combat, disarming him within seconds. But 2 more appeared behind her. They weren't trying to kill her. They were trying to capture her. Black 09, one of them said through a distorted voice modulator. The program wants you back. You belong to us. I belong to no one, Sable snarled. She fought like a cornered animal. Vicious, desperate, precise. But they kept coming. Then a gunshot rang out. Byung-ho appeared at the end of the hallway, weapon raised, flanked by his personal guards. She's under my protection, he said coldly. You'll go through me first. The operatives paused, assessing the situation. One of them spoke into a comm device. Target is protected by local assets. Recommend tactical withdrawal. Negative, came the response. Retrieve Black 09. Eliminate obstacles. The operatives raised their weapons. Byung-ho didn't flinch. Then we have a problem. The firefight that followed was brutal and brief. Byung-ho's men were skilled, but these operatives were something else entirely. Sable fought alongside Byung-ho, covering his blind spots, moving in perfect sync despite never having trained together. Within 3 minutes, the operatives retreated, vanishing as silently as they'd come. But they left behind a message. Spray painted on the wall in red. You can't protect her forever. The next morning, Byung-ho's intelligence team delivered devastating news. Boss, we found the breach. Someone inside the syndicate has been feeding information to an outside organization. They knew Sable's location. They knew your schedule. They knew everything. Byung-ho's fists clenched. Who? We don't know yet. But the leak is coming from someone with high-level access. Suspicion spread through the headquarters like poison. No one trusted anyone. And Sable knew it was her fault. She found Byung-ho on the rooftop that evening, staring out at the city. I should leave, she said quietly, before more people get hurt because of me. Byung-ho didn't turn around. You think running will solve this? It's what I've been doing for 3 years. It's kept me alive. And kept you alone. Sable said nothing. Byung-ho finally turned to face her. You're not leaving. Not until we find out who betrayed us. And not until we finish what they started. This isn't your fight. You became my bodyguard. That makes it my fight. Sable met his gaze, searching for doubt. She found none. They won't stop coming, she warned. Then we'll be ready. If you stand against organizations that treat people like property and tools, like this video and comment, everyone deserves freedom. Only people who support control and manipulation won't. Dawn broke over Seoul with an ominous silence. Then the sound of engines shattered it. Sable bolted upright in her quarters, instantly alert. Through the window, she saw them. Dozens of black vehicles forming a perimeter around the Black Tiger headquarters. This wasn't a raid. This was a siege. She grabbed her weapon and burst into Byung-ho's office. We need to evacuate. Now. Byung-ho stood at the window, watching the convoy with cold eyes. No. They're not here to negotiate. They're here to take me by force. If you stay, they'll kill everyone in this building. Then they'll have to go through all of us. Byung-ho. I don't run from fights. Especially not in my own home. Before Sable could argue further, the front gates exploded. 6 figures emerged from the smoke, moving with the same lethal precision Sable once possessed. Elite operatives. Phantom unit trained. They walked through Byung-ho's guards like they were children, disarming and incapacitating without breaking stride. Sable's blood ran cold. She knew exactly what they were capable of, because she used to be one of them. Sable stepped into the courtyard alone. The 6 operatives stopped, forming a semicircle around her. Black 09, the lead operative said, voice distorted behind a mask. 3 years is long enough. The program wants you back. I'm not going back. You don't have a choice. You belong to us. Sable's hands clenched into fists. I belong to no one. They moved as one. The fight that followed was nothing like the brief skirmishes before. These operatives knew her fighting style because they'd been trained the same way. Every move she made, they anticipated. Every strike they countered. But Sable had something they didn't. 3 years of freedom. 3 years of remembering what it meant to be human. She fought with precision, but also restraint. She could have killed them. Her training demanded it. But she refused to become the weapon they wanted her to be. One by one, she dismantled their attacks. A disarmed wrist here. A swept leg there. Pressure points that incapacitated without killing. The courtyard became a blur of motion. Black gear against black gear. Skill against skill. When the last operative fell, Sable stood alone, breathing hard, bruised but standing. Behind her, Byung-ho and his entire syndicate watched in stunned silence. They had just witnessed something beyond human. Byung-ho's men secured the operatives, pulling off their masks. The lead operative spat blood, glaring up at Sable. You can't run forever. Black 09. They'll send more. They always send more. Then tell them to send better, Sable said coldly. Byung-ho knelt beside the operative. Who sent you? The man laughed bitterly. You think you're protecting her? You don't even know what she is. What she's done. Then enlighten me. The operative's eyes shifted to Sable, then back to Byung-ho. Black 09 was deployed 3 years ago on a classified mission in Seoul. Her target wasn't an enemy. It was a protection detail. She was assigned to protect a high-ranking Korean official from assassination. Byung-ho's jaw tightened. What official? Chu Myung-dae. Your father. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Byung-ho slowly stood, staring at Sable. What is he talking about? Sable's face had gone pale. I didn't know. The mission failed, the operative continued. Your father was killed despite her protection. The entire Phantom unit was deemed compromised and erased. Every operative. Every record. Black 09 was the only survivor. Because I ran, Sable whispered, her voice breaking. I ran instead of finishing the mission. I failed. The courtyard fell silent. Byung-ho walked toward Sable slowly. She stood rigid, waiting for anger. For blame. For rejection. You were sent to protect my father, he said quietly. Yes. And the mission failed. Yes. But you survived. Sable's hands trembled. I survived by running. By abandoning my assignment. By choosing myself over. By choosing to live, Byung-ho interrupted. By refusing to be erased like the others. Sable looked up at him, eyes glistening with unshed tears. For 3 years, I've had no name. No home. No identity. I've been a ghost, moving from place to place, never staying long enough to be found, never letting anyone close enough to care. Her voice cracked. I thought if I just kept running, kept surviving, it would mean something. But it doesn't. I failed your father. I failed my unit. I failed everyone who ever trusted me. Byung-ho stepped closer. You didn't fail. You lived. Against an organization that wanted you erased, you survived. That takes more strength than any mission. I don't deserve. You protected me from the Kim family's sabotage. You fought off trained operatives twice. You've stood beside me when my own blood tried to tear me down. His voice was firm, unwavering. You didn't fail my father, Sable. The system failed both of you. And now you're here, protecting me. That is enough. Sable's breath hitched. For 3 years, she'd carried the weight of failure alone. Now someone was telling her it wasn't her burden to bear. Hours later, after the operatives had been transferred to a secure location and the compound was being repaired, Byung-ho found Sable standing on the rooftop balcony. The sunrise painted Seoul in gold and crimson. They'll come again, Sable said without turning around. The organization doesn't give up. Let them come. Your family still wants me gone. Your enemies will use me against you. I'm a liability. You're my bodyguard. And more than that, he paused. You're someone who deserves a second chance. Sable finally turned to look at him. Why are you doing this? Because 3 years ago, you tried to save my father. You may not have succeeded, but you tried. That means something. He stepped beside her, looking out at the city. And because I know what it's like to be haunted by things you can't control. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the city wake up. Then Sable spoke, her voice steady for the first time in days. If they want me back, they'll have to try harder. Byung-ho smiled. That's the spirit. Somewhere in the distance, a black sedan pulled away from the compound, carrying encrypted messages to hidden facilities. The hunt wasn't over. But neither was the fight. If you believe second chances matter and people deserve freedom from their past, subscribe to Ebony and Pearl Stories and comment where you're watching from. Only those who believe in chains and control won't stand with us.